And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Connected for Real podcast. I'm Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman. And today is the last of a 3-part series. 2 weeks ago, I spoke about Rosh Hashanah. Then last week, I spoke about Yom Kippur. And this week, we're going to be talking about Sukkot. So if you want, you can always go back and listen to those. And I want to remind you that you can work with me. There are only 4 spots left. One-on-one, private mentorship, 3 months just with me, my eyes on you, on your emotions, your situation, your processing, whatever is happening. I am in for it. So let's do it if you are interested. If you've been wanting to work with me for a long time and you just didn't find the right capacity, my masterminds are specific to specific people. Maybe you didn't feel like you fit exactly the mold. Maybe you weren't ready to commit for a full year or for 6 months. This is a perfect way to just take advantage of what I have to offer. So this is 3 months. One-on-one, just with me. You get access to all of my curriculum and everything else that comes with it. So that's the trainings, the sessions, the meditations. There is a ton. Okay. So let's get into today's episode. It's all about happiness. And actually, it's the obsession around happiness. So I want to tell you a little bit about my obsession around happiness because ever since I remember myself, I wanted to make other people happy. I wanted to be happy. I remember myself drawing little smiley faces. I remember myself writing, "Don't worry, be happy" to my friends when I was in elementary school. I even remember faxing. Do you remember those things? A fax machine? I remember when we were on vacation, faxing my friends a little paper that reminded them to be happy with little drawings and things because it was so important for me that everyone around me was happy. And I see this now in my own daughter. I have one of my daughters who's very social, and all she wants to do is go and be with her friends and be social. And what are we doing today? And she calls and she, unlike the other ones who are like not really into calling, she's still young enough that she's calling everybody. What are we doing today? Are you coming over to me or am I coming over to you? Are we meeting at her house or are we meeting at my house? And there's just like a gigantic happening that is surrounded around her search for happiness. And for her at that age, it reminds me very much of what I was searching for, which is be around other people, make sure you make other people happy. And then once they're happy, you're happy, because there's this codependency thing that just we fall into that says when everybody around me is happy, then I'm doing my job. Then I am, allowed to be happy. And if you've been at the marriage breakthrough retreat, you may remember the story of my breakthrough when I finally, for the first time, had like the biggest aha moment of how dependent I was on my husband for my happiness. And, I was in a marriage class and everybody had to bring a problem, and I didn't have any problems because my marriage was perfect. And yeah, I'm saying that a little sarcastically, but I really couldn't find anything specific. We were in a good season and there wasn't something that was coming up, unlike the other women who had, immediate issues that they were able to bring up. Mine felt like it was a little bit more under the surface. And so I just sort of let it be. I let other people go first. And then one day, mid-sentence, the teacher was speaking and she introduced something. And I was like, wait, stop. I've got my problem. And I brought it up and I said, my problem is that my husband is, no, I said, here I am. I built my entire gorgeous, colorful castle and I'm the queen. And everything is so beautiful and colorful and light and airy fairy. And like everything feels so good. And he comes and throws black all over it. And his negativity and his darkness and his heaviness is just ruining what I've created, basically. And that was the first time that I put it into those words, but it just felt so real at that time, especially from, in the space that we were going through, the things that we had to deal with at that season. I could see now why he was a little bit dark and heavy and all those things, because it really was a hard thing to go through. But the teacher looked at me and said, "Oh, so you need him to be happy for you to be happy?" And I was like, "Well, yes." And that night, she said a couple of things and we discussed it. But that night I had the most amazing meditation. I just sort of laid there in bed. He was sleeping next to me. He did not know about this. He has no idea what happened. He doesn't really ask about what classes I go to or what happened in the class, because, it doesn't really interest him. So here he is, like, sleeping in the bed next to me, and I can't sleep. I'm laying there trying to relax, trying to concentrate, trying to just like let it all wash over me. And this thing is tagging at me, and it really puts me into this like meditative state. I bring my imagination into it, and I take a deep breath and I close my eyes and I see that there is this rack that is represented by my husband, right? It's like, no, it's a representation of my husband. It's a rack, sort of like a clothing rack. And it has all these hooks on it, like hangers. And each hanger says something on it, like, my safety, my happiness, my, I don't know, whatever other things. I can't think of them right now. And then suddenly there was this loop that was also sort of like a hook, like a hanging loop thing that showed up right over my head, and it represented God. And I was guided to unhook from my husband. By the way, in Hebrew, being dependent on is being hooked on. It's the same word, talui. It's I am hooked on him. And so I'm taking off the hook from my husband's rack, and I'm clicking it onto God's hook. And I'm saying in my mind really clearly, I am no longer dependent on you for my happiness. I only want to be dependent on God. And I clicked it in. And then I took the next one and I said, I don't want to be dependent on you for my security. I want to be dependent on God. And I went through each and every one of the things that came up. And at the end of it, all of my hangers were hooked on God, and there was nothing left on my husband. And it felt so good. It was the first time that I breathed so deeply and so openly. Like there was something so magnificent about it. And I just remember feeling so free. And I just went to sleep and I thanked God. I was like, wow, this feels so much better. And I closed my eyes and I fell asleep. And I slept really well that night. And then in the morning, things started to shift without me doing anything. Suddenly, my husband had a rose on my desk. And I was like, what is this? First time ever. I had no idea. He's like, you said you like roses. And there was one growing outside. I figured I'd pick it and, put it here for you to show you how much I love you. I'm like, you know how many years I've been telling him I like flowers? And he never did this before. Like, something's going on. What's going on? And so I came back the next week to the marriage class, and I said, oh my gosh, you guys, you don't even know. And the teacher said, this is it. This is the magic. This is where it's at. When you do the work so deeply inside yourself, you literally unhooked him from you, right? When you are dependent on someone else and when you are so hooked on them for your stuff, you're basically holding on to them with your claws and you're not letting them free. to go and discover what makes them happy and what frees them from this darkness. And as soon as I unhooked myself, he was now free to discover and do the thing that he does. And I saw this was like the thing that was the breakthrough in our marriage. It was so powerful. Even just telling the story gives me chills, okay? Because first of all, it's super like, are you really telling a story on public, on the internet? That's so intimate. But I think it's important, and I'm saying it because for so many years, I've been operating on this obsession of happiness that I need other people to be happy. Like, here I am, I built my, happy place, and it has my happy colors and it has my happy things, and it's all about being happy. And anybody who's not happy is just ruining the show. Like, you don't belong. You're not playing the game. Like, something is wrong with you. And when I was able to shift out of that, I believe my life really up-leveled. And so the next level to happiness, and yeah, I really do think that, that first level that we're talking about is an immature level of happiness, and everybody has to go through it, okay? There is going to be a stage everyone has to go through in order to get to the next level. So it is not bad if you're here. It just means that there is where to grow, okay? So don't be hard on yourself. We've all been there, and some of us have been there longer than others, but it is where we all start. I think it's just the way that we are taught and conditioned to survive. Okay, the next level up from that is finding external things that make you happy. Feeling like, I'm not appreciated, nobody cares, I'm overwhelmed, there's so much on my shoulders, I'm doing this all by myself, I feel like I'm all alone. These are real concerns that women have, and they come to me and they say, my marriage stinks, and it's because my husband doesn't pick up the slack. It's because I'm doing everything. It's because he doesn't see what I do, and he doesn't appreciate me, and I feel this weight, and it's all on me. And so what I found was the best tip for people who are in that overwhelmed situation. And by the way, you can download my guide, Unravel Overwhelm. It's at ConnectedForReal.com/guide. And that's a free guide. And it's exactly for you if you've just been called out. Just kidding. So what I found and what I ended up doing for myself, the next level of happiness, was finding external things that I can turn to so that I can find happiness. Sort of getting in touch with what I like and finding the things that make me happy, because not everything will make everyone happy, right? So for, the example we said, I love fresh flowers. My grandmother hates fresh flowers. She thinks you're giving her death, because as soon as they are cut, they are no longer alive. And she just watches them die, and doesn't make her happy in any way. It just makes her frustrated that you gave her flowers, especially if you paid for them, right? So it's so unique to all of us. Some people love chocolate and some people hate it, and they feel like, why are you giving me this thing? Some people love massages and other people are like, ugh, don't touch me, right? Some people, like, we were doing in the marriage breakthrough retreat on day 1, and this was one of the exercises. And I said, give me examples. And in the chat, people started saying what makes them happy. And then people reacted to the other people. Ugh, I hate the Dead Sea. What are you talking about? I love the Dead Sea. This is the place where I come alive, right? And I love avocado. I hate avocado. It makes me so happy. Oh my gosh, if you put avocado in a salad, right? So there was this real illustration of how unique we are and how every single one of us has different tastes and a different thing that makes her happy. So, basic step is find what makes you happy from an external place, right? What are the things you like to eat? What are the things you like to do? What are the things you like done to you? Where can you find external things that you can add onto your life that you can maybe turn to for moments of pleasure, moments of happiness, moments where you're just taking care of yourself for no other reason but because it makes you happy, right? And I believe this is a really important step and you can't skip it. You can't be like, no, I don't want external happiness. I just want internal happiness. Leave me alone. Let's move on. It won't work. Okay. You can't skip steps. I think I've said that before in a couple of other podcast episodes because it is so true. There's always built-in steps and they sort of lead into each other and they create a foundation for the next level. And so if you want the higher level internal stuff that feels really, really good and is very soul-based, then you're going to have to address your body because you are a physical person. Okay. So external things, of course, they're not the end all be all. You cannot always turn to chocolate and hope that it's just going to make you happy. It's not going to work if there's something deeper going on, right? It's not going to work if you have to process emotions. For example, one of my pregnancies, fear really was like a big factor. And it was so overwhelming that I had to sit down with a coach and work through it. And it was the best thing I ever did because then afterwards I had an amazing birth and, the entire experience was completely shifted because I was able to work on that. But if you don't process your emotions and you're just going to bottle them in and cover them up with some chocolate, you're not going to see happiness. You're just going to see a frustration and an undercurrent of, I can't figure this out. So be aware. Don't use external happiness to numb your pain. Don't use external things that make you happy to push down whatever is trying to get your attention. Instead, use it to bring into your life external things that can enhance your life. Okay. So instead of you just having to do all the things you have to do and not giving yourself permission to just enjoy the things that you enjoy because they're extras, they're not necessities. Stop doing that. Life is not meant to live in suffering and in hard work and push through. It's meant to be enjoyed. So the more you can find things that you can pause and enjoy and be present with, the more the other things that you have to do or the things that need to get done are going to get done with happiness because you're going to teach your body how it's okay to be happy in any situation when I am doing the things I have to do and also when I'm not, right? So we're re-educating our minds a little bit. And I want you to allow yourself to take a moment to think about what those things are and then give yourself permission to do them for yourself. At least pick one thing from the list. Okay. And then that takes us to step 3, and that's the highest level of happiness, which is the internal happiness. It's the happiness that comes from inside. It's the happiness that you can just turn on with your gratitude, with your thoughts, with the mantras, with the way that you live your life and experience things. You can turn any situation into happiness, even if it's a hard situation. How? So I have this training called the Recipe for Happiness, and it's in my portal. I believe it's also in YouTube somewhere. If you search the Recipe for Happiness, you might be able to find it. It's very old, but it's still very good, I'm sure. And the Recipe for Happiness is 2-part. It's gratitude, because when I have what I need and when I'm able to recognize that, it's not just thank for that, but recognize that God gave me that is from God and that He is taking care of me. There is happiness in the brain that is turned on. And you are actually physically turning on the mechanisms in your brain that feel happy, that have that dopamine that turns on and says, woohoo, things are good. Thank you. I love it. I'm so grateful that I have a bed and sheets and, running water and all these other things that are great for me. Okay. So the gratitude is one side of the recipe happiness, the happiness for the recipe for happiness. And on the other side, you have when things are not going well, when you don't feel like doing it, when it's hard. And the thing that will turn on happiness is when you overcome anything, when you overcome this not wanting to do it, that urge, oh, I don't feel like doing it. And then you do it anyway. Oh my God, the amount of happiness that rushes through your body when you realize that you overcame that pull. Except here's the side note, and I want you to be really aware of this. We have been conditioned and possibly sort of just done this to ourselves where we don't allow ourselves to celebrate because, oh, big deal. It's not a big deal. It's so not a big deal. I mean, the fact that I just did the dishes, come on, everybody does dishes, right? So we compare ourselves, we make it no big deal, we sort of minimize it. Basically, what you're doing in your mind is you're turning off the lights on the party. You're like, the party is turned on. There's like, oh my God, I just overcame that thing and I did it anyway. And then you're like, no, everybody go home, nothing to look at here. It's just some like loser me doing the thing I have to do anyway. And just because I didn't feel like it doesn't mean anything. Come on, stop it. Stop doing that. Okay? Stop turning off the lights on your own party. Give yourself permission to celebrate the things that were hard for you and you did anyway, or the things that you really wanted to do, like eating that chocolate cake. It was calling my name. It had my name all over it, and it's like, I know it's going to cause me a stomach ache. I know I'm not going to be happy. I know I'm going to feel icky afterwards. Why am I going and doing that? I am closing the door and I'm not doing it. Woohoo! You just overcame. That is a gigantic victory and you should celebrate. And you could say, oh, big deal. Regular people don't celebrate every little thing they don't eat. Yeah, well, it was hard for you and you did it. So stop comparing yourself to other people and instead give yourself permission to celebrate the things that you overcame, the little victories along the way. And what happens when you do is you allow your body to do the natural thing it does, which is turn on the happy. And so you have dopamine rushing through your body and your brain is turned on and going, woohoo! And there's lights and there's sparkles and there's confetti everywhere. And you are finally allowed to be happy for just being you, for being able to overcome that thing that was calling you, pulling you down, making you feel like, oh, I can't control this thing. And you're like, yeah, actually I can. Walk away or do it anyway, whatever the situation is. And suddenly you've like up-leveled your life. Suddenly you've just allowed yourself to be happy, to celebrate. If you can do this, and this is hard, okay? It's hard because it's giving yourself permission to write it all down, to celebrate it, to call a friend, to, give yourself a point, whatever it is that you do to just feel really great about yourself. It's not something we're used to doing. It's not something that we're used to doing. Giving ourselves permission to be happy is not something that we're used to doing. And I want to make it normal. Okay. So please send me an email. Tell me, what is the thing that you're celebrating? What did you not feel like doing and you did anyway? What did you feel like you had to do because it was calling you? And then you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. Just going to walk away. Once you can start celebrating those things, the happy is just going to turn on its own, and you're not going to have to turn to anything external to feel happy. So those are the 3 steps that I see through my happiness obsession. The first step is the immature step, right? Of just wanting to be happy because, then I could make other people happy. If I'm happy, other people are happy. Like, how they tell you, if I'm a happy mother, it has, good atmosphere in the home. It's like, yeah, very nice. How do I do that? So, no pressure. There's a lot of pressure in this immature way of looking at happiness. If I'm happy, other people will be happy. If other people are happy, then I'm happy, right? It makes you cancel yourself out just for other people. As long as everybody else is happy, I don't need anything. So then you don't have the things you need. And it's okay because everyone else is taken care of. I've been there. Not a good place to be. Okay. So I've heard Kathy Heller in one of her podcasts said, it is not your job to put yourself on fire to keep other people warm. And it really hit home. It was like, oh, yeah. But it is, some of us who have this nature of wanting to make other people happy, we will appease, we will do whatever it takes because it's in our nature to want other people to be happy. So the first step, the immature step of just wanting other people to be happy, the codependent thing, it's part of life. It's okay. It is where you are or where you used to be. And just that it is what it is. Don't fight it. But then also awareness is key because it allows you to know that there is the next step and that you can do something about it. Okay. So what happens is when you go from that first step to the second step, where it's external happiness, you suddenly allow yourself to take care of yourself, to enjoy the external things, to let yourself have whatever thing you like, right? Like I used to feel really bad. I wouldn't buy things I liked because no one else liked them. So for example, one of my favorite vegetables, that sounds funny. One of my favorite vegetables is fennel. And my husband hates fennel. It tastes like licorice to him, and he does not like licorice. So he's like, what is this thing? Ew, ew, ew. Don't ever make it for me. Okay. He never said, don't make it for yourself. He just said, don't make it for me. I don't like it. So for years, I wouldn't buy fennel. And I would only eat it when I was at other people's homes and they made fennel. And then I would go to my aunt and she'd make fennel. And I'd like sit there and eat the whole bowl and look like I'm like desperate for fennel, right? And then she said one day, like, why don't you just buy it and make it? It's like so easy. You cut it up, you wash it a little bit, and then you put salt and olive and lemon. And I was like, yeah, but nobody's going to eat it in my house. She's like, you could eat it all by yourself. Look, you just ate a whole bowl. Like, why are you waiting for other people to help you eat it? It just never occurred to me that I could make a salad that only I would eat. Right? That it just doesn't. It feels so awkward. So, ever since then, I told my husband, you know what? When you see fennel in the store, buy me one and I'll cut it up for myself. And it changes everything. It's just like there's something you like at the table that makes you happy. It makes my heart sing when there's fennel. I cannot explain to you. And when it is in season and when it is in the stores, I enjoy it so much. And it's only when I gave myself permission to buy it just because I like it and not because anybody else cares when I started enjoying it. Okay. Another great example from my personal life is the 70, 80, 90% chocolate. Like I love dark chocolate. It makes me so happy. It feels yummy. It feels healthy. It doesn't feel too sweet. I can eat it with nuts and it feels like an actual boost of energy, like I love it. And because everybody else was making faces, right? Now that I have a bunch of kids and they're all teenagers, they're like, ew, 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 what are you doing? What are you eating? I wouldn't let myself eat it. And then one day there was a sale and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy it. It was 2 for whatever. I bought 2 and I tasted them and I ate them and I'm like sitting there enjoying them. And my younger kids come over and they're like, ooh, chocolate, I want some. And I'm like, nah, you're not going to like it. It's icky. And they taste it and they're like, love it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so now, you know how it is. You like what your mother likes when you're little because it's her yummiest food. So now my youngest ones all love dark chocolate. And when I eat dark chocolate, I have to be careful because they're all going to eat it up for me. So it's just a very funny examples. These are examples that came up for me of times when I had to give myself permission to enjoy the things I like just because I like them and not because other people like them. This is how you go from step 1 to step 2. Okay. Step 1 being the immature happiness and step 2 being the external happiness. When you allow yourself to be in that external happiness, you are allowing yourself to get out of canceling yourself out, erasing yourself because other people matter more. Stop that. Give yourself permission to enjoy the things you love. And then to go from step 2 to step 3, which is external happiness to internal happiness, start to learn how to wire your brain to allow yourself to really feel. And this might take coaching and it might take practice. And this is hard work. But if you're ready for it, this is what you need to do in order to get to the next level. And I think that, to wrap it up with Sukkot and the fact that we're going into a holiday all about happiness, there's music, there's sitting together, there's meals, there's, visitors, there's all these things that are external that are meant to liven up the mood, to make you happy from outside. Challenge yourself to enjoy those things and be present with them. And then also find where you can allow that happiness that turns on from within to turn on. Don't turn off the lights on your own happiness. And when you catch yourself doing that, take a deep breath and let it be. See if you can just jot it down. I did the dishes, or I didn't feel like setting up the table for the 40th time, and I did anyway. Whatever it is, write it down. Allow yourself to validate what you've done and then celebrate it. Okay? I'm wrapping it up because I don't want to get this episode to be too long. Also, I love you and I'm super excited. Next week, I'm skipping because I do not work during the holidays. So you have time to go back and listen to some of the previous episodes. There's some really great stuff in the podcast app if you just scroll down a little bit. And if you're watching this live, hi, it's so fun. Just so you know, I always go live because when I used to try to record this and it wasn't live, I would stop myself and restart. And I realized, this is not working. So I just go live. I make whatever mistakes come up. I get all like jittery and, oh my gosh, what if I mess up? And then I mess up and everything's okay. This is why I love going live. So I go live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. So if you found me there, say hello and feel free to, comment and ask any questions because I do address those. Apropos comments, I've gotten some requests for specific topics to talk about. So if you have something you want me to address, please let me know. And I will try to address it in some of our next episodes. Again, if you would like to work with me, I only have 4 spots left. I originally decided that I'm opening up 6 spots for the month of September. I decided that I'm not going to cap it at September 30. I'm just allowing whoever wants to take those 6 spots. There are already 2 women working with me, and it is a pleasure. It's amazing. We can work on your marriage. We can work on your business. We can work on finding your purpose. We can work on your intimacy. We can work on the intersection between how your business and your marriage are conflicted or not sitting right, or maybe you want to get more intentional and more preventative so it doesn't happen to you, but things are good now. All those things are great. That's what I specialize in. So write me an email, advice@connectedforreal.com. I'm here, I'm listening, and I will gladly hear what it is that you would like to work on. So have a great day and Chag Sameach, and I will see you next time. All the best.